That's called everything. It's the everything network.
As long as Minzberg can still learn, that's the main.
Sorry?
Nothing else. Talking to Akiva. As long as Minzberg can keep learning and connected, that's.
Oh, geweldig. Okay, so let's see what we have over here. Zok the Haley of the Gemara. Okay, so we are up to Kamashla. So we're up to Lord Meir. So the last thing we discussed again was we learned from a pasuk, the Braysh learned from a pasuk that the chilufim of a carbon, the replacement of the carbon that had a mum, gets to reset the clock to have a full 3 regalim before the over baltacher. Zok the Lord Meir the Amar. According to Reb Meir, who said, "Kiban sha'avar alav regal achas over baltacher." If you remember, one of the shittas in the Israel baltacher was Reb Meir, and Reb Meir said that one Yom Tov alone is going to create an Israel baltacher. What does the v'loy chilufav mean? You can't use it to tell you that you have a new 3 regalim because you don't. So Amarava hachabamayaskinan can go into humam b'soicha regel. Let's say that in the middle of the first regel, the animal got a mum, v'chileloi, and you took the kedusha off the carbon that had a mum. I just want to look at Rashi. Shehumam b'soicha, not a Rashi, the Bach. Shehumam b'soicha regel v'chileloi alacher, and in the middle of Yom Tov, you pass the kedusha from the original animal that got a mum to the replacement animal, and then v'avar regel. So this animal only became royal for a carbon in the middle of Yom Tov because it took over the kedusha of the previous one in the middle of Yom Tov. So Kedaita Chamina, I might have thought, since this animal is getting its kedusha, it's basically standing in place of the original animal that it replaced. Command the over aleh kula regel. We look at it like an entire regel passed over it, and therefore there would be a chiyuv of baltacher according to Meir. Kamash malon that this didn't even have one Yom Tov that it passed over because it only got its kedusha in the middle of Yom Tov. Beautiful. Let's just see Rashi here. So kedaitach v'achi kamakra im hala echad over zman ichur chayiv. If one animal passed the zman ichur, which according to Meir is one Yom Tov, then he'll be chayiv. But combining them does not help. Okay, so let's see the Gemara. One of the comments that the Brisa made that we're now dissecting is and we learn in other words, even though you waited too long, and because of that you might have been over baltacher, your carbon is still a kosher carbon. Correct. Is this the makar of this halacha that a carbon remains kosher even though you were over baltacher on it? We know this from Acherim. The Tanya, Acherim Oimrim, Yochel Yehei Bechor, She'aver Shenasai, Kipsule HaMakdoshin, V'yivsal. You might think that a Bechor whose year has already passed will be like Psule HaMakdoshin, and it will be possible, unless you Rashi, She'aver Shenasai, Mitzvasai B'soich Shenasai. The mitzvah to bring a Bechor is within its first year. Shenemar Lefnei Hashem Alekecha Techlenu Shana B'Shana. So you might think that if you waited past the year, it should be like Psula HaMikdashim, which Rashi says Kebal Mum. Maybe this carbon becomes puzzle, the Yisal, and therefore the carbon will be puzzle. Hoyel the other we're up to Bayi B'Shalom. The Yisal Hoyel the other alone the Ichroi. Since you were over and you didn't bring the Bechor within the required time period, now you were also over in Shana beloy Shloish Regalim Grove Shana. Most years you cannot really have a year pass unless 3 Yomim Tovim pass. So you might think that the Bechor should be possible because you were over Baal Ta'acher on it. Talmud Leimer v'yachalto lefnei Hashem Alekecha Maser degoncha tiroishcha v'yitzarecha u'bekaris bekarcha v'tzoncha Makish Bechor leMeiser. In this pasuk we have Bechor and Meiser, and the Torah is comparing the two. Ma Meiser, ein initial mishana lechavita. Just like Meiser will not become possible if you wait a year. Av Bechor ein initial mishana lechavita. So let's see Rashi. Ma Meiser, einoi nisal dechsiv mitzei shalosh shanim imsham Meiserosav shana rishona ushniya. It just says that you have to. Let's see what it says. Bechor Meiser b'Meiser dagon kamish toikra. We're talking about Ma'aser Dagan, not Ma'aser Behema. But Ma'aser Dagan, if you wait, I think only the chiyuv to do beer Ma'aser is only after the third year. So there's no such thing that after a year there's any problem. You can still continue to give that Ma'aser. So too a Bechar as well, even though a year passes. So you see that there's no psul on this Bechar if you pass 3 regalim. So you already have a Makar by Bechar, which is a carbon, that even though you waited way too long, the carbon still remains kosher. So why do I need an R pasuk? We already know from Bechar that even if something is way too late, it's still a kosher carbon. I need both psukim. Because if I only had the pasuk of Bechar, I would have thought it's only Bechar that even though you've exceeded the 3 regalim or the year, it's still a kosher carbon. The lav bar hartzahu. In other words, a Bechar is not l'chapara, Rashi says, and it's not l'dayrin. It's not a present to Hashem, it's not a kapara. It's just a mandated thing that you have to give. For instance, a chatos, or an oiler that you bring, is being l'chapara on a veira, even if it's mandated. And the dava, shlomo that you might bring, is going to be a present to Hashem. So that has to be done within a time frame. But a Bechar does not fit into either one of those categories. That's why it could be brought way past the year. Rashi says, since you brought these karbonos through an aveira, meaning because you waited too long, maybe they will not be maratza. That's why the pasuk says, the carbon remained a kosher carbon.
But is it still in the status of a Bechor, carbon for a Bechor, or is it a Shlomim?
No, a Bechor always remains the status of a Bechor. Only a carbon Pesach changes its status to a Shlomim. A Bechor remains the same until you're makriv it, unless it gets a mum.
So what is he over? He's over the time frame. He's not over the Bechor.
Yeah, he's over Baltacher.
Yes,
So there's no remedy for that part.
No, you can't turn back the clock.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Is there carbon that you have to
Yes.
bring to
No, it's a lav. It's a lav. No, I know it's brought for if you're over to say, or a lav in let's say. For a lav, if you're over it, you don't really get malchus, but this is a lav shem b'maisa. You get malchus here. Fact the more.
Yosy.
Yes.
No, I just want to know if I can go back to sleep since we finished today's daf.
We still know this same halacha that a carbon does not become puzzle merely because it was brought late. The Tanya we learned. Ben Azay Omer. Oisa. So let's see the pasuk inside. Pasuk inside says, bottom of here. V'im he'achel ye'achel mi b'sar zevach shlamim v'yoyim hashlishi. So it's referring to the Isser of Pigel. Lo ye'ratza. Hamakriv oisay lo ye'chashiv. So it's oisay is a meal. This is possible, but not something else. Because really what it could have said is, what do you mean hamakriv oisay? We know we're speaking about a carbon here. So the oisay is an exclusive term. So zokt bein azai. It says oisai there when it's talking about the psul of Pigel. Ma tamid loimer. Why did it say that? The Hishnemer it says loisa acher l'sham. It does say that there's an issue about acher, the issue that we're discussing. Shemeani, I would assume that includes af ma'acher nidroi bival yiratza. Maybe the isser, just like the isser Pigel creates a bal yiratza, it passes the carbon. Maybe the issue about the acher also passes the carbon, creates a bal yiratza. Lever oisai dafka Pigel. Oisai below yiratza. Dafka Pigel will create a lo yiratza. Ve'ein ma'acher nidroi below yiratza. So now we have 3 psukim that seem to tell me exactly the same thing. That a carbon that was brought late is going to be a kosher carbon. We have our case. We have the case of Bechar, and we have the Oisai. So why do you need this? Our pasuk of Bechar is to tell you something else. And not on your. So this seems to be saying, I'm not sure if we're changing the Lashon of Brisa. Because the Lashon of Brisa said before, we're changing what we said. The chachet, there won't be a problem with your wife. What does that mean? So kedai the chamina. Hoyel bam Rabbi Yochanan. The Baal Rabbi Yochanan said, "Bitem Rabbi Lazar, maybe there's Rabbi Lazar. Ein ishtoi shel adam mesa ela im kein mevakshin mimenu mamayin." The wife of a person does not die unless they're looking for money from him. If the ein loin, he doesn't have what to pay. Shenemar im ein lach l'shalei. The pasuk says, if you don't have to pay, lama yikach mishkavecha mitachtecha. Why should you lose your bed from you? So I think that's a pasuk in Mishlei, I believe. It is it's in Mishlei, so it's Chachma Shleima. Zakt Gemara, Shenemar, mein l'chol l'shalom lama yikach mishkavecha mitachtecha. So you would have thought, you would have thought that maybe the Isha Baal Ta'acher also lead to a person's wife's passing. Kamash Malon, that this Baal Ta'acher does not involve your wife. Let's see Rashi. Let's see Tosfos. Tosfos Elam came to vaccine in Mom and Vainlight. The Soy Perk chain is Zachem, Pierce Berkudris, Mammon shall get. Rashi says in Zvachim, this is referring to someone who steals money and doesn't have money to pay back. That's the type of situation that the Chashva will lead to someone losing his life. Avolnira, the Ma'ibin Neder. So I think it's referring to a Neder. Kidemuchach, the Perak b'Memedliku. Like it says in the Perak b'Memedliku. The Tanya of Nos Noimer, the Oven Nedorim Mesa Ishtay Shaladam. What causes someone loyal leinu to lose their spouse, to lose their wife? It's the Isher Nedorim. Shenemar Ein Lach L'Shalim Lama Yikach Mishkavecha Mitachtecha. V'had Nedar Shacha. The chachet, the loy beish the chachet, married b'mishalem achakach elisha over b'baltach. So where does it lead loyal leinu to a death? That's if you don't pay at all. We're talking about you paid, but you paid late. That wouldn't lead to ishtachales. So there's a very interesting story about a fellow who hated his wife. He said, "I hate my wife. I hate my wife. I need to get rid of her, but I don't know what to do. I can't kill her. I'm going to sit in jail for 25 years." 25 years ago, I could have done it, but now I'm holding today. So the Rosh is very perfect.
At what point
Sorry?
would you be at what point would you be considered not paying at all?
What do you mean at what point?
You said because you didn't pay at all. That's why that came upon him. So at what point?
You want to know when the deadline is?
Yeah.
I guess there's no deadline. As long as you pay, you can still fix it. And
but that can be forever. So that can be forever.
Yeah, I understand, but at any moment, the Grim Reaper can take you out if you didn't pay. So what happened is this guy goes to the rabbi and says, "I need help. I got to get rid of my wife, but it's got to be clean." So the rabbi said, "I have a very simple answer." The Gemara in Nedarim says that ba'ava Nedarim ishtei mesa. So make a big donation to the shul and don't pay up, and that's it. You'll get your wish. So he schnooders into the Smedish, avush yitain $10,000, right? And he goes, "Hoo-ah," right? And he's happy. He's excited. He's waiting for that. He's waiting for that diagnosis. He's waiting for that prognosis. And a month goes by, 2 months go by. The shul's calling and making collections. I'm not paying. And nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. So he goes back to the Rav and says, "Rav, you ripped me off. This is not working." And I'm in trouble. So the Rav says, "No, you don't understand. The way this works is if you hate your wife, and she dies, it's not a punishment. That's a schar. So you have to like your wife. But I hate her. What am I supposed to do? So I'll tell you what to do. Start buying her gifts. Start bringing her flowers. And you're going to see over time, you'll start liking her. And then it'll work. So he starts doing that. And after a couple of months, he starts to really like her. She says, "Wow, my husband's so considerate, so nice." And she's like back. And it's unbelievable. They fell in love again. So he runs back to her. "Bro, help me. What am I going to do? I don't want to die anymore." So now you got to pay up. Okay. Zog the Hela Gemara. What's that?
That was
Reb Markler.
The Rabbi Kursky's great-grandfather.
It's always nice to know who I'm plagiarizing from. Thank you.
Yeah, he was also the guy who helped
He's
the
the
other guy.
rabbi who gave the advice. He's the rabbi.
So Zog the Gemara. Moitas v'secha. So let's look at the whole passage. It says Moitas v'secha tishmar v'asisa kasher nedarta l'Hashem alekecha nedova asher dibarta b'zicha. So in Moitas v'secha tishmar v'asisa kasher nedarta l'Hashem alekecha. Then it calls the same neder and nedova asher dibarta b'zicha that you spoke out. The Gemara is going to dissect this passage. Moitas v'secha zu mitzvahs asay. That's referring to a mitzvah asay, which Rashi says zu asay the mistama hachi kamakra Moitzvas v'secha kayim. You should be mekayim what you said you were going to do. Tishmar, zu mitzvahs loisaseh. Look, Rashi, shaloi ta'acher. That could be referring to the isser bal ta'acher. So you have to bring a carbon because you said you would. You have to avoid bringing it late because there's shaloi ta'acher. Okay, zok the Gemara weiter. And the reason why it's a lav is because it uses the word tishmar, and Rashi tells us that the word hishamer, pen and al are all lashonis of a lav. Vasisa, ashar la bezdin shiyasu. There's a azar to bezin that bezin has to force you. Bezin has to force you. Now this chiyuv for bezin to force you, we're going to soon see, is not referring to all of the things in here. It's only referring to tzedakah. And I wanted to speak that out because Chaim Tzvi mentioned yesterday that I don't understand. Tzedakah you have to enforce because people need the money now. They don't need the money in 3 regalim. So that is the reason why by tzedakah it's enforceable right away, not because of you, because the aniyim need the money. So Bezdin is allowed to force you to do tzedakah. Kasher nadarta zeneder. If you summon the neder, which is harei alai oila, lashem alekecha. These are all the korbanos of chiyuv, anolos l'riyah, and the shalom chagiga is what we're referring to, that one must bring, and there's an isser of baltachar. These, okay, nedava, this is what is the word in the pasuk. Lashem l'kech nedava k'mashmai. It means nedava. If someone said harei zuayla, so he has to bring it with the people of asher dibarta. Elu kache bedekabayis. That's if someone says, I'm going to give money to bedekabayis. The ficha, zu, tzedakah. The ficha is referring to tzedakah. Amar mar. So let's have a look. Moitus sasacha, zu mitzvah saseh. The Torah is telling us it's a mitzvah saseh to be mekayim your devar. Lama li. Why do I need a pasuk to tell me that there's a mitzvah saseh? Didn't we learn yesterday that from the pasuk of Uvasa Shama, Beisam Shama, when you come to the Beis HaMikdash, to the Oila Regel, Ba'Veisam Shama, you should bring there all of your karbanos. So there's a mitzvah say we learn the first Yom Tov that you show up to the Beis HaMikdash to bring with you all of your Nedarim and Nedavos. So why do I need another pasuk of Moitus Vasecha? So the Gemara puts that aside. So it's kasha number 1. Kasha number 2, Tishmar zu mitzvah loisas. You also learned about a mitzvah loisas about the Acher. Correct, Gemara Lamali. We have a law for it. So why does the pasuk need to repeat another law for the same isser? Vasisa, ashar lebezin sheyasucha. Vasisa tells you that bezin is allowed to force you, is instructed to force you to do the mitzvahs. Lama li, why don't you need that pasuk? It says in the pasuk yakriv oisai. So let's look at the pasuk inside. In oisvav, at least this gemara, it says oila karbonai min abakar zachar tamim yakrivenu. El Pesach oil moed yakriv oisai, which meaning you'll force somebody to bring that carbon. So it says yakriv oisai, the Tanya yakriv oisai, you force him to bring it. Malamit shekaypin oisai, yachal bal. You might have thought that he could bring a carbon even though he's being forced. Talmud le'mer le'tzayna. It's with his will. The question is, how could it be against his will and with his will simultaneously? Haketzad kaypin oisai at sheyomer reitim. You force him until he says, yes, I want. And the way the Rambam explains it is really everybody in their heart wants to do the right thing. Everybody wants to do the mitzvahs. But there's this horribly distracting Yitzhahara that's blotting out our real self and taking over our being. When you get a couple of pitch, suddenly that force loses a lot of its grip upon your mind, and then your true colors come out, and the true colors of a Yid are Roitzan. Okay, so now we have a problem, is why do we need 2 sets of psukim? A for the asay, B for the loisaseh, and 3 for the fact that Bezdin can enforce it. Why do I need this mentioned 2 times? So Gemara, Chad the Amar v'lo yikrush. 1 set of psukim is to tell you all these 3 halachas. If you said harei alai oila, but you were never mafresh oila, Chad the afish v'lo yakim. And the other one is where I already picked the animal that's going to be Mekayim Achiv, yet I was not makriv it yet. Utricha. Now the Rishonim don't say beferish which set of psukim would be parallel to each of these two cases. However, the Achronim Taina, that maybe you could say that the pasuk of Moitas Vasecha is the Amar V'lo Ifrish, because it's talking about someone who violated what he said he was going to do, and the Baal Ta'acher and the other psukim are referring to Afrish V'lo Yakrish. With Shricha, you need both sets of psukim. Yashmin and Amar V'lo Afrish. If we only knew that these three halachas, the Asay, the Loisha, and the forcing applies if you said Harei Alai Oila but didn't bring the Oila, I understand why you forced. You made a commitment and you reneged on that commitment. But if you already designated an animal, so you've already delivered what you were supposed to deliver to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Maybe wherever it is the Rebbeinu Shalom. I discharged my chiyuv, so I shouldn't be subject to these three items. Tricha, that's what you mean. The Yashmin Afrish V'layakir, but if the pasuk only told us the case of Ifrish V'layakir, which means you already have the animal designated for the oila, but you didn't bring it yet, I would say only there these three apply. The Asay, the Loisha, and the Isu. The Kamasha Legabe, because you have something here that you're supposed to be bringing in, and you're not. It's a concrete thing. It's tangible. But if it's merely a verbal commitment, no, just words. Maybe that's not enough to be mechayiv you and say aloisisa and eat. Tricha, that's why we need both sets of psukim. Correct Gemara. And we matas amrit the amr v'la ivrish. How could you say that any one of these psukim are referring to someone who said, "I'm going to bring the carbon," but was not mafresh to carbon? In both these brises, in both these lists, are included a nedava. And what is a nedava? Which non-milar. Ezu neder. A neder is someone who said, someone who says, I'm accepting upon myself to bring an oila, which means I haven't designated an animal. I've just accepted upon myself to bring that oila. Ve'ezu nedava. What is the definition of nedava? I'm designating this animal as an oila, which means that I definitely designated the animal here. What is the difference? The halachic difference between neder and nedava? Very simple. Neder, if I accept it upon myself, so it's my responsibility to deliver a carbon to the Beis Hamikdash, period. So therefore, if my animal, even though I designated an animal, if something happened to it, that doesn't take off my personal chiyuv that I accepted upon myself. It's like signing a personal guarantee. But nedava, because I never said I'm bringing anything. I said this is hektish. Now it's your problem, hektish, to take care of it. But going back to our question is, how could you say that either one of these brises, either one of these sets of lamudim, are referring to Amar v'loy asa? In each case, in each brise, it lists nedava as one of them, and nedava by definition is you've already designated the animal. So if Gemara Amarava, it's not true. I can find you a halachic status of nedava where you're not chayiv in achrayis, yet you've only made a word and you haven't violated. And what is that? Someone said maybe that's the nedava referred to in our brisa. It's a nedava because I didn't accept achrayis, but I still have not yet designated a specific animal, and that could be what the other brisa is. Okay, then the brisa goes on at the end. Beficha zu tzedakah. Beficha tells you that all of these halachas apply to tzedakah as well. Amar Rava, tzedakah mechayiv al altar. I'm sorry, Rava says in tzedakah you don't have 3 regalim. Tzedakah you're chayiv on the Baal Ta'acher immediately. Why is that? The Gemara says exactly what Chaim Tzvi ties. The hakaymi aniyim, because there's aniyim right here that are desperate, that need that money. So therefore you're mechuyev to do it right away. The Gemara pshita, it's pashit that by tzedakah which you right away. The Gemara no, ma'od the tema. You would have thought even the beinyana the karbanas ksiva, since the Torah teaches us about the lab, the asay, the chiyuv to force in the same pasuk that it's talking about the same chiyuvim by karbanas, maybe the parameters of the chiyuv for tzedakah should be exactly like karbanas. Ad avriyalav gimel regalim to karbanas. Kamash v'lon that tzedakah is unique, and tzedakah the isurim and the chiyuvim come immediately. We'll talk to Gemara weiter. Kamash Malon, Hasam who the lesson who Rachmana, Hasam who the Talinu Rachmana Biragalim. Bar Karbanis, we know the Torah linked the bringing of the Karbanis today. Chagamatos, Chagashavush, Chagasukas. But by tzedakah you don't have to bring to the Beis Hamikdash. Tzedakah aniyim you can give any time. Doshchich aniyim. So that's Rabbi's chiddush. Amar Rabbi, even she'over alov regal echad over basei. Once one yom tov passes, you're over basei even for the karbonos. The asay applies for all karbonos right away. And Rashi tells us because it refers to uvas hashama b'beis hashama, like we learned yesterday. The very first time you come to the Beis Hamikdash, to the Oila Regel, after your nether, you will have to bring your karbonos with you with a chiv of a say. The whole shiloh we had was whether or not the loisas applies up at that point, right? Because we Shimon and the Tanakama said you need 3 regalim, but the assay everybody agrees is triggered immediately. Meisvei, hey Rabbi Yeshua, Rav Papayas, Al Vlad Shlamim, Sheyikra Shlamim. Rabbi Yeshua and Rav Papayas said that if you set aside a pregnant female animal for a shlum, or Rashi says it wasn't pregnant, but it became pregnant after you were matish. So, and then the baby was born. So the question is, what do you do with this baby? The mother is a shlomim, you designated as so. What about the child? So, hey, Rabbi Yeshua Papayas, that this child also is brought as a carbon shlom. So it's what we call 2 for the price of 1. Amar Papayas. Ani made. I can tell you. Sorry? The house always wins, that's right. And not only that, when you bring your second shlomim, you have to bring the sacham along, the nachas along. It comes with a whole bunch of kibudim. So Amar Papayas, Ani made. I can tell you a story that happened with us. We actually had a para that was a carbon shlomim. We ate this animal on Pesach, but the baby that was born, but we didn't eat its child until Sukkot. On Sukkot, we brought his child as a carbon, so it was like 6-7 months old. I could understand why they didn't bring it as a carbon on Pesach. We know that an animal has to be at least 7 or 8 days old in order to be able to bring it for a carbon. So if this child was born on the Erev Yom Tov, there wouldn't have been a possibility to be makriv as a carbon for that Pesach. Since we know that there's an assay, that you must bring every carbon that you have by the next Yom Tov, here the carbon was fully ready to be brought when Shavuos arrived, yet Rav Papayas' family did not bring it.
They decided not to go. No.
I guess the Gemara knows that he was there. The Gemara must have known that he went. Okay.
Maybe he couldn't get it first up.
Okay.
Was an Amira.
Where was he going?
What's with this carbon? How do we have carbonas today? I mean, they had carbonas in the days of the Amaroim. The basement was long destroyed.
The Papayas was an Amora.
It's impossible because how did he brought a carbon?
Yeah,
He must have been a Tana. He must have been a Tana because he was by the Beis Hamikdash. Sorry?
With tummies.
Right. We don't bring carbonas.
So I think the Papayas is mentioned in the Mishnah.
So Amar Abzid.
In ovens.
Nobody saw it, right.
So the question is, how did he not bring it on Shavuos? Amar Abzid Mishmei Derava. I'll tell you why. Kigayin, the reason why he couldn't bring this animal on Shavuos is because Shahaya Chayla, Be'atzeres, on Pesach it chap COVID from the crowds, and Kam Shavuos, he was fighting with a sickness, and he couldn't bring it for a carbon. Ratoja says because a Chayla is possible to be brought as a carbon. Rav Ashi Amar,
The animal had a.
But who was sick? The animal or the person?
the animal was sick. So I'm not sure exactly how they knew it was sick. It could be they had an infrared thermometer and they saw that the animal had fever. I'm not sure how they determined if it's sick.
And the cold, sneezes.
Yeah, cold, yeah.
The owner of the animal.
Ah.
The owner, yeah.
Well, that's how they're being challenged, but the Rashi says Beferish Havlad, and Tosha says talking about the carbon. Okay. Rashi Amar, my v'chalmu vlada shlomim b'chag dekatani. When he said we ate the vlad on chag, it doesn't mean the chag hasukos. It's chag hashavuos. So there's no kasha. It means chag hashavuos. That's when we did it. Ve'idach, but the person who asked this kasha and answered shayachayla is kol hecha detami pesach I'm sorry. Where we have it? Whenever it would be talking about Pesach, but we're talking about, if we're referring to Shavuos in that context, we would use the word Atzeres. We wouldn't use the word Chag. Chag normally does mean so. Once 3 Yom Tovim has already passed, it's not pshat he has one Aveir. Every day he's compounding these Surim of Baltach. So don't think, okay, once I'm over already, so let me already wait. I already paid the interest for this month. I'll already pay it next month. No. You have to take care of it right away. Meisei Fek Gemara. Echad B'char, the Echad Kol HaKodshim.
You go up at any time and really bring it up.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be necessarily.
That's right. So look at Meisei, Echad B'char, and Echad Kol HaKodshim. Even Sha'avar Aleim, Shana, B'loy Regalim. If a year passed, even though 3 Regalim did not pass yet, and the Gemara is going to explain how is that possible, that a full year passes, yet you haven't had 3 Regalim. That's going to be the discussion of the Gemara. Or Regalim B'loy Shana, 3 Yom Tovim passed, but a year didn't pass, and that's simple, right? From right before Sukkot till right after Shavuos is not a year, but 3 Regalim passed. So the Gemara wants a proof of mir that you're over every second. You have the right? Oh, neither do I. What is the raya? It's a completely separate piece of information. How would you see from this Mishnah that you're over every second? It's talking about something else. It's talking about being over after if a year passes or if 3 Regalim pass. Amr of Kahana, look of Kahana, Manda Kamosha, Shapa Kamosha. The person asking this kasha is a good kasha. Where do you see from this second brisa that you're over every second? Because michti, let's think about this. Tana alavi kamahazer. Clearly, this Tana is trying to show how easy it is, how you could be over lavin. You could be over it even to a year passed. You could be over it even if 3 Regalim didn't pass. So that's what his focus is. Listening b'chol yoyim v'yoyim over b'bal tacher. So it's only natural that if he actually agreed that every day is a separate lav, he would have said that, because that seems to be the focus of the Tana. He's trying to show you how easy it is to be over this Isser. So it's only appropriate that he would have also mentioned this if, in fact, he holds that way. And since he didn't say that, it's a riot that he holds you not over every day. The Tana is just trying to show you how you're over the lav. The lav you say like a mahader. He's not speaking about extra lav. So I like Rav Kahana's svara. Clearly, that's what you're doing. You're trying to have lavin. So you should have known that you have to say that also. The Hesh Nusam tells me a story about his father. Rav Nusam was once backing out of a good apartment that was downtown on Bathurst Street, and a terrible snowy day. His car's full of snow. He's had like 2 peepholes in his front windshield, and he backs right out to Bathurst, and bam, car smashed right into him. He gets out of the car, and he tells the people who hit him, "Couldn't you see that I can't see?" So that's you should if you talk about love and the body, you should be talking about them all. Talk more about your gufa.
He doesn't have to himself. He could send it up with.
That's right. Uber. Yeah. Gufa. Echad b'char. The echad kol hakochim. Sai b'char. Sai al kochim. Kivan she'over aleim shana b'rei l'regalim or regalim b'lei shana over b'altach. So let's analyze the bunch. Bishlam or regalim b'lei shana. I understand how you can have 3 Yom Tovim pass without a full year, 12 months pass. How could you have 12 months pass and not have 3 regalim? How would that be possible? So let's slow down a bit. Hanichalaman the isla kisidron. If you hold kisidron, so Zok Rashi, what does that mean? Hanichalaman the boy kisidron mishkacha. Because if you hold that it has to be Pesach, Shavuos, and then Sukkot, then Mishkachas law, you can have a year without regalim because you have a year without the regalim in the right order, right? Because if the occurrence happened right before Shavuos, then you're going to have to wait till the next Sukkot. So it's going to be more than a year and a half. So that's how you have 12 months passing without the 3 regalim, the 3 required regalim of them being in order starting from Pesach. Elamanda less like a sidron. But if you hold like the first Tana in our original brisa, that any 3 regalim that pass, and whichever regal starts to count is fine. How are you going to find a case where 12 months have passed, yet you didn't pass 3 regalim? So Dr. Gemara, Bishlamala Rebbe, according to Rebbe, you might be able to have it. Mishkachas law, Bishana Muberes. You might be able to have it in an Ibriyar. And let's see how that works. So let's look at Rashi. Bishlamala Rebbe, the Amar Chodesh HaIber Einoi Min Hashana. Whenever you have a normal lunar year is 354 days. A solar year is 365. When you have an Ibriyar, there's more than 354 days. There's more like 384 days. But Rebbe says that it's only the 11 days that make up from the 354 to 365. It's only those days that are considered part of the year. So the Amar Chodesh Iber Einoi Min Hashana Chutz Miyud Aleph Yoim Sheshnas Chama Yiseir Al Halavana. So there, Mishkachas Lo B'Shana Muberes. Then you can have a 12 months go by without 3 Yom Tovim. And let's see how this works. B'Shana Rebbe, Mishkachas Lo B'Shana Muberes. Titania, Shana Tamima. It says Shana Tamima in the pasuk. Rabbi Omer, what does it mean Shana Tamima? Moina Shalosh Me'os B'Shishim B'Chamisha Yom Keminyan Yimoisacham. So what is the Shana Tamima relevant to? It says Lo Yigoyel Ad Meloy Shloy Shana Tamima. We're talking about a house that in a city that has a wall around it. The halacha is, if you sell your house that has a wall around it, that's in a city that has a wall around it, you have 12 months to buy it back. If you buy it back within the year, you get it back. If you don't buy it back within the year, unfortunately, you can't come up with the funds. The person who bought gets to keep it forever. So you can imagine at the 11th month, the buyer disconnects his cell phone, disconnects his address, tries to move away because he doesn't want you to get in under the wire. And the Gemara has remedies for that as well, actually. But you have 12 months.
What happens if the price increases? We're talking about a whole year.
So that's a good shaila. I'm not sure how that works. It probably has to do with how much you paid. And if you paid $1 per year, then you have to pay back based on the rainy year. But your chayva doesn't work that way? Okay, so I'm not sure how that works. I'm not sure exactly how that works. But I'll call them, you have 12 months. Remain beyond Yovel, that's correct. So the Gemara says as follows. How do you count? Tamima. Rabbi Yomer, it's very simple. It's 365 days. That's it. You count 365 days, no matter what. And if you don't, if the seller does not buy back by that point, he lost it forever.
It's really a quarter of a day left. Meaning 3/4 of the day left.
Because it's exactly. The Chachamim, that's why you have an Ibriyar in the secular calendar as well. You add a February 29th because you have to make up the. Otherwise, it'd be a February 27th. Otherwise, it'd be. The Chachamim, and the Chachamim say, "Moina Yud Beis Chodesh B'Yom." You count 12 months to the day. So if on Rosh Chodesh Adar you did the sale, then by Rosh Chodesh Adar you have to have it bought back. Now, what happens if this for Aber Shana? What if there's an Ibriyar? So who gets the benefit of that extra month? Nis Abraloi, it works to the benefit of Lamoicher, Rashi says. Nis Abraloi Lamoicher. So what happens is Abraloi the Moicher has a benefit that he gets 1 extra month to buy his house back. So it helps him. So based on this shita, where Rebbe holds a year is 365 days, yet the Chachamim hold the extra month counts as part of the year. So Mishkachas Tola Rebbe, you can have a very good case according to Rebbe, where you have 12 months have passed, even though not 3 regalim. The Akdasha Basar Chagamatos, you made the animal Kodesh on the 2nd day of Pesach. So let's see Rashi. Basar Chagamatos B'Soicha Regel. So let's say on the 2nd day of Pesach, you said Hareizu Shlomim, Hareizu Oilam. This time in the Achar Regel, there are those who learned it was completely after Yom. But it doesn't matter. The Chimata Shili Adar Basra, when Adar arrives, the end of Adar arrives next year, Shana Malya, a full year has passed, but Regalim Loy Malu, but you don't have Regalim. So let's see Rashi. Basar Hagamatois, Shana Malya, Gimel Meos B'Shishim B'Chamishi Yom. If it was an Ibriyar, you would have already had 365 days pass, yet you didn't have 3 Regalim because you didn't get up to Pesach yet. In other words, the first day of Pesach is the day that you have to reach. You didn't reach the first day of Pesach yet, so you have a case we have a full year that passed, but not regalim. Elul Rabbanon, according to the Rabbanon, that you look at the month, so therefore the Ibiyar is still part of the year. How could you have a full year without 3 regalim? Dr. Gemara, a little bit more complex. He did Tanya Reb Shmaya, like Reb Shmaya learned, Atzeres. Atzeres is Shavuos. Shavuos is not based on a specific date. Shavuos is based on counting 49 days from Pesach. So it's always going to be a specific distance and days away from Pesach. For Amim Hey, because of that, sometimes Shavuos will fall out on the 5th day of Sivan, Pamim Shisha, sometimes it'll fall on the 6th day of Sivan, and Pamim Shiva, sometimes it'll fall out on the 7th day of Sivan. Haketa. Shnei Malay, if the month of Nisan is Malay, has 30 days, and the month of Iyar is Malay, has 30 days, so then you use up 2 extra days for the 2 months of Nisan and Iyar. So then Chamisha. So then Shavuos is going to be on the 5th day of Sivan. Shneim Chaserin. If Nisan is only 29 days, and Iyar is only 29 days, so now you have 2 extra days. So therefore Shiva. Shavuos is going to end up being on the 7th day of Sivan. But if Echad Malay and Echad Chaser, if one of the months of Nisan and Iyar are 30 days, and one are 29 days, then Shisha, then Shavuos, the 50 days is going to work out to the 6th day of Sivan.
Yes.
So let's see how this translates.
Yes.
Yes.
Almost 5-2, and we're definitely a lot
So we're
ahead.
going to stop here. So since we have extra, we're a little bit ahead, we will stop here. We'll pick up on here tomorrow. Shoyach Rabbi say, have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Yosy.
Yes.
Yeah. So there was this wealthy man who was sleeping on the park bench, and this guy comes out and says, "Rabbi, you're a wealthy man. Why are you homeless, sleeping on the park bench?" So I'll tell you, I was living alone in this big, beautiful mansion. I have 12 children. I decided to sell my house, and every month I get to one child. So what are you doing here? Why are you sleeping on the bench? He goes, "It's an Ibriyar."
Very good. Shkoyach.
Good.
That's Mr. Pearl's joke, by the way.
Avigdor, after I plugged in, was it fine?